Evening. Welcome to the seat at the table. Listen, it is Monday, October the 9th, and for many of you, those of you that know I love numbers, and number nine is the number of judgment. The number 10 is the number of beginning. So, for those of you that may not know the definition the number 23. Let me define it for you real quick. I'll define the number 23 for you. Uh, that way you know what it is if you would like to know. And we'll define the number 23, the numerical number, if you would like it. If you would like to know what the definition, tonight we want to look at some things because we know in our world right now, uh, Israel, or should I say, Isaac and Ishmael, are still at battle. And it's amazing that as they came out of Yom Kippur, and as they finished celebrating the feast, and as they celebrated the feast of Sukkot, the feast of blessings, war took place over in Israel. And we do know that both of these brothers, they had the opportunity by Abraham to know who God was and what God's law was and what it was all about. And one decided that it would take the notion to look at it from the standpoint of God as not just being the creator, but moving forward from the law in the aspect of waiting for Christ to come. The other one depicted it from the standpoint only from what God had given unto Moses. And to this day, you have various forms of Islamic teachings, even here in Florida. Just this morning on the news, both those that are of Israeli background and those that are of Muslim background, they were doing peaceful protests, and you had both state as well as local officials trying to make sure that their protests were peaceful. But let us look at some things that we have to bear in mind that these battles were to be, and these are just beginnings of sorrow. But in all of our lives, there are sorrows, there are beginnings of everything, there are origins of everything. And the fact that one was a son of promise and one was the son of a bondwoman. And anytime we go outside of what God has said, don't think that God won't bless us, but we still have to be obedient to it. So let's look at the fact that where we are in our lives, we have to still move forward. We can't blame anybody or be forceful in anything, although we can if that's what we choose to do. But we won't put aside our petty differences, because even in our country right now, just today on the news, it was being stated by some of our Republican cohorts that because there is no Speaker of the House and there is no ability to really make conscientious decisions on which direction that we can go, or whatever laws that will be made or decisions that will be made, because the finalization of those decisions is made within the House between both sides, Republicans and Democrats. And because there is no Speaker of the House, one of the Republicans and many of the Republicans are at this stance now, saying that they're praying that their Republican cohorts will be at a place now that they don't take it lightly. They don't play with this, and this is no longer a game, but that they would look at this from a very serious standpoint. And there's some that are just still making it out to be a mockery because it's about a power struggle. Who is in charge? Who is the strongest? Who's the biggest and the baddest? And the world is looking at us as a superpower that has now caused its own self to fall from within. Let's look at it. A house that is divided against itself cannot stand. We're not standing. And that's not just an individual house, but look at us as the United States, because several Republicans have stated that the world is looking at us as being weak. And they didn't just start looking at us as being weak, as our previous predecessors as presidents have put us and pitted us in positions as though we could not stand together. We were already fighting among ourselves. Solomon said that a wise woman builds a house, but a foolish woman tears our house down. So if you look at it, we've been tearing our house down for quite some time because we would rather look at the kickbacks. We would rather look at how much money we can get. We would rather look at what we can lobby, how we can lobby, and mere the fact that the people that we are supposed to be representing, we don't really represent them in the manner in which we should represent them, but we really represent ourselves and what we can get, and we make people believe that whom they have put in as the person that stands in lieu or in light of what they really look to have done that would benefit them from a high level, low level, in between level, or roundabout level is really not being done on a level that would benefit anybody, because the only benefit that is being gotten is the person that is now supposedly representing them, along with all of the other representatives that sit in the seat of Congress, whether it's the 240 on one side or the 150 on the other side, or however many members there is that it is, whether you're liberal, whether you're conservative, whether you don't stand with any party at all. So tonight, I just want to look at the mere fact, what is our balance? Where do we stand in our own lives? In the lives of those of us that call ourselves friends to somebody, those of us that say we're husbands, those of us that say we're wives, those of us that say we're brothers or sisters. So we just finished looking at our series where we looked at getting to the root of things. So if we really got to the root of things, are we really a friend? Have we really shown ourselves friendly? Are we really considering ourselves to be leaders, or do we really have the leadership quality? Are we really considered brothers? Are we really considering ourselves sisters? Or do we really consider ourselves business owners? Are we really considering ourselves the moguls that we say that we are? Are we really considering ourselves people that really love? Is it really genuine, or is it just a facade? Is it just for show? Is it just for posterity? Is it just to make people believe one thing when we really have another motive entirely up our sleeve? Do we really have a whole lot of show cards, and the cards that we really have behind closed doors? Is it really something else? So tonight, this seat at the table is really to show what is our real impression that we really want to impress upon the world. Are we impersonators, or are we the real thing? You know, that was a song back in the day that said, "Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby." You know, Coke used to have the slogan, you know, Coke is the real thing, Coke is it. You know, everybody wanted to buy Pepsi, everybody wanted to buy Coke, Coke and Coke, Coca-Cola and Pepsi was the things that you had to buy. Coca-Cola used to be the product that had the real big bottle glass, and at the bottom, you can look to the bottom of the glass, and it was real thick at the bottom, but there was cocaine at the bottom of the Coke bottles at one point in time. You used to have to shake the Coca-Cola up in order to drink the Coke before you drank the Coke. And I don't know how many of y'all really remember that, but that's what Coca-Cola was really all about. And that's why it was called Coca-Cola, because there were actually cocaine at the bottom of the Coca-Cola. And then they took the cocaine out of the Coca-Cola and they started making the Coca-Cola with caffeine. So I don't know if many of y'all remember, that's why it was called Coca-Cola. And that's why the slogan was called Coke is it. So then you have Pepsi because you had two partners that came together that made it, and the formula was transformed and poured over to somebody else. And Pepsi Cola is made with pure cane sugar out of Louisiana. Then you had RC Cola that came in the mix, that was also another company that was a breakoff of all of these other companies that began to make their classic drinks and what have you. And then it started spanning over the years. So what is the real drink product or soda product? They called it pop, they called it soda, they called it Coke, and everything was called a cold drink. And the reason why they called it a cold drink, because it was always cold. Not because it was a Coca-Cola, but because it was a real cold drink. Right. So everything was called, give me a cold drink out of the refrigerator. Give me that pop out of that. Give me that red pop. Give me that orange pop, or whatever. Give me, give me a root beer, So it was from a root extract, it was made, everybody used to make root beer extract because it used to be a little bottle and get a little bit, put it in some water, and, put a little sugar to it, you made your root beer. I don't know if any of y'all remember that. So that was a whole lot. My wife said, where I'm from, we did that. That was a point in time where, grandma used to make syrup out of the old coffee, put it on the stove and add a lot of sugar to it, and you make your own syrup. I told y'all I'm a country boy. So there were things. Old people used to make their own mayonnaise. Get you some whites of eggs, salt, vinegar, whip those whites up real good. I'm a country boy. Bet y'all say tonight, this ain't like it was the other day when they was doing the seat at the table and they were talking about love and all of that other stuff and how you keep the marriage really going like they did on that TikTok they did the other day. But tonight, it's about the fact that our world is in shambles. And I wanted to come on real quick and real brief because this is a short one tonight. Reason being because we got to think about where we're going and what we're doing. And we really got to open our eyes, because when we look at Matthew chapter 24, Jesus had already talked about these things. There's so many people now, and I'm pretty sure the prophets are out there other than the ones that are telling you, let me tell you about the blessing, let me tell you about the blessing. And there are so many that are now that are not getting people into focus of where they are. Let's get to the next level, get to the next level. I've seen a whole lot of those things that are out there as well. And let's get it refocused and all of this other stuff. But nobody's getting people to recognize, hey, it's time for preparation. Yeah, it's time to get to some next level, but in order to get to the next level, ain't too many people telling folk they need to come out, get right, get straight. We need to get in line. We need to get in tune. We need to come together. We need to lay aside. We need to put some differences aside. We need to become one. We need to unify. Where's the unification at? We're not really unifying. And those that are really saying it are being silenced by so many folks still trying to gather folk to get them to give so much of what they got that they ain't got enough of to give, and they still are hurting in so many areas that they still are running out of what they're running out of, and you don't realize they get ready to institute some things that you never thought that they would institute again, like they did with a whole lot of our parents that have died, and parents that are alive, and parents that are still suffering, and parents that are still trying to figure out why they're pecking along with their blind cane stick, and they're still going back and forth to the doctor because of what happened in Vietnam, World War II, and everything else, because of all of the drafts that they picked out, because it's getting ready to turn back to some of those things again. But we don't believe that. We don't realize that our ports need to be put in a place to where they have now beefed up the barriers. You don't realize that when we were looking at the fact of a governmental shutdown on last month, and our Republicans were fighting against it, and some Democrats, and they were trying to figure out what they were going to do to pay those that protect our country, those that protect our highways, those that protect you in law enforcement. And they were going to put you in position to where you didn't have what you needed to have, because they wasn't going to be able to pay them, those that were making sure and ensuring that your waterways, that all of these things were at a place and position that you didn't have to worry about, foreign and domestic things coming to put you in position where you were not safe. What happens? What do you do? Where are you? But everybody want the right to bear arms. And it's not a problem that you do, but do you know what to do with it when you have it? You have folk that are right here that are waiting for the word to be given to them from their own countries to say, okay, now it's time to activate. There are certain words that have been embedded in them from the time that they were born to the time that they understood, to the time that they were able to walk, to the time that they said, okay, now it's time for you to move to the country where you're at now. And when the word is given, they awake. It's time for us to wake up out of our sleep. That's what Paul said to the Hebrew people. It's time for you to wake up out of your sleep. I'm trying to help you tonight. This is not what you want to hear. My wife said, well, what the table going to be about today? Well, here's the warning now. Heed the warning. We're at the gate. It's time for us to wake up. It's morning time. You think about some of the things that Jesse Jackson said some years ago. He said, from the outhouse to the White House, from my house to your house. You got to think about it. It's time for us to open our eyes and see. It ain't just at somebody else's doorstep. It's been at your doorstep a long time ago. And just because it didn't say, it didn't knock at your door. Just because you didn't hear the knock didn't mean it wasn't knocking. It's going to come a knocking. It's going to come a tapping. Mm-hmm. But are you ready to do what needs to be done to do it? So tonight, are we really real? Are we who we say we are? Are we what we say that we are? Are we in it for real? Will we stand the way that we say we're going to stand? And I know it don't make sense to you tonight. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But are you armed and ready here? Are you armed and ready spiritually? Are you ready to be in the battle? The weapons of our warfare, they're not carnal. And although they're not carnal, if we're called to arms, are you ready to make the move? Are you ready to swiftly move out when God says time to move out? When the horn is blown, are you prepared to pack up and get ready to make the move that is necessary? We pray, we say we believe, we say we trust. But if we're trusting the Lord with all of our heart and leaning not to our own understanding, then all that has been given in all of the political sciences that we have been given and that we have been taking and that we have taken and that we have studied and all of these other things that we know are supposed to root out the things that will keep us from being poor and keep the poor from staying poor and keep the poor from going back into poverty and make sure that there are no impoverished areas and that there are nobody that are living in poverty, but those that choose to live impoverished and those that choose to live in poverty, to make sure that our widows and orphans are not in the places that they're in and make sure that they're maintained as they should. Then tell me why we have so many places that are degraded and staying in degradation, and tell me why we have so many people that are without, and why the rich seem to always have so much, but yet they can't pull together all that they have and even take just 100,000 of what they have and put it together with all of the millions of folk that have over $1 million in the bank and invest it together and take 6 months from that investment and reinvest it in the areas around our 50 states and in the cities within the 50 states to now re-economize the areas that are degraded and place somebody that they know that are economists, and all the economists that have graduated from school and those that are in school that are taking economy now, that will now be able to balance out the places that are in positions that are now going down and help refortify and rebuild those areas with the monies that they have invested in investments while they invested the time to see what can be done to bring them back out of the places that they're in so they cannot go back, and ensure that folk that are trying to re-infiltrate these areas cannot re-infiltrate, but now you're now removing it and placing them in places that if that's the place that they want to be, and that's the life and lifestyle they want to live, you now have secured them where they can live that life that they want to live, that now does not cause no harm or danger to the folk that want to now upgrade themselves from staying in poverty. So now you don't have impoverished cities. But you also have cities where folk choose to live in that way, but you still have government that govern and governments that now keep them governed where they don't hurt themselves nor infiltrate where other things at, but they still have access to the things that they need. So they have the kind of care and health care and law enforcement that keeps down murders. Hello, somebody. But that won't make sense because you don't make money off of that. You don't get rich off of that. You don't get popularity off of that. That doesn't make sense because it does not make dollars. It does not make millions. It does not cause you to have the fame that you want. It's not the popular thing to do because it does not cause you to be in position to now be put back in place of authority and power. It does not give you the sense of relief to say that I've done something. But if we take all of the knowledge that we say we have and now apply it with wisdom and prudence, we'll find ourselves better utilizing all of what we got if we actually put it into place in position to now make sure that we maximize all of what we got. That's wisdom and prudence in a simple way. It goes deeper than that, but that's just a simple formula to begin to put in place. But then somebody will take something that was just said tonight and make it their idea. That's fine if you use it and utilize it according to God's will. But God has to be in it. Christ has to be the beginning of it, and you have to be led by the Spirit of God. In order for it to really work and for it to be sustained, Christ still has to be in it. Because you can take all the knowledge in the world. You can take all the money in the world. You can invest the time that you need because it doesn't take long to see and be able to root out all of those that choose to stay where they are. And those that really want to come out of what they're in and recognize those that really are only trying to get you to give them what they want because they just want to be satisfied for the moment. But those that really are not satisfied where they are, that are really trying to get from where they've been because they're uncomfortable in the position that they're at, because they really want to and they desire to be better than what they always have been. So why not take all of these mathematicians, all of these economic and economists that recognize all of the issues and problems that are there, all of these physicists that we have, all of these psychologists and sociologists that see all of these things and problems that are there, with all of the tests and all of the things that we've done to see what are some of the root of the problems, see all of the psychological issues and mental issues, and see all of the social endangerments that we have in the world. And now those things that we see and number them in the states and the cities and the towns and the suburbs and all of the projects and all of the homes that we have. And now we can begin to minimize a whole lot of things, including the nursing homes and hospitals that we have, and we can begin to maximize and utilize better what we have to be able to not run out of and become better efficient in what we're doing, because we have enough people that know how to do it, young and old, of every nationality and gender. Then we can do the same thing with those that want to make sure they protect wildlife and plants and protect the planet and things of that nature, if you utilize it in the right manner. Wisdom is the principal thing. But with all that getting, you got to get an understanding. And right now, we're not understanding each other enough to say that we really know what is white, what is black, what is red, what is green, what is yellow, what is brown, what is orange, what is purple, what is really what, because we won't even see who each other really are. only to see what we can get out of each other. We still crabs in a bucket. And none of us are no better than the other, no matter whether we have or don't have, no matter whether we figure we got it all or don't have nothing at all. Whether we have everything, we have nothing. And whether we have nothing, we still don't have everything. Without Christ, we still empty. And even if we have Christ, without each other, we still lost. So tonight, think about it. While we're seeking to get to the beginning, we got to recognize that we have to end off some things that have kept us where we are so that we can really begin. You got anything, Evangelist? So that's all we have for tonight. But when we come back to you, we'll give you what you really want. Because this is not about what we want. This is about making us better. So while we're at the table tonight, think about it. I want to put something on your mind. Because while Israel is at war, and while these two places are tearing each other apart, we've been tearing each other apart since before President Obama, since after President Obama, since our past president and our present president, we've been tearing each other apart. Since President Carter was out, since President Reagan, if I can go back to several presidents and tell you when we started really causing ourselves to spiral down while we thought we were really rising up. We really was not going anywhere where we thought we were. And as we called ourselves advancing, and as we were advancing, we were still retreating, but we really was not going forward as we should. But we were only building up the steam to get where we thought we wanted to get, to put ourselves in position to be out of position. And when you look at it, you'll see it for yourself. So have a great night, and we'll see you Saturday at the seat at the table.